I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone. Welcome. If there was a clock on the wall, we would be able to tell you we're a little bit late, but since there's not, we're right on time, and that's the way we're going to roll. And I think we're probably going to modify the agenda a bit.
I'm going to offer a couple of modifications for consideration. First, in the consent agenda, with the personnel report, I'd like to add a supplemental dated today, and I'd like to add supplemental Roman numeral 2 dated today to the agenda. And then further down the agenda, under Roman numeral 5, I'd like to remove F and G. We're going to bring those back at another date. They're not ready to discuss those tonight.
Second.
Very good. Without objection, thanks. Great. And no one signed up to speak tonight, but certainly this is an opportunity to do so if you wish to, and not seeing anyone. And we'll move on. And student reps, and apparently some folks from LACS are probably getting ready for graduation tomorrow, and they're not here today. But I see Connor is.
And it looks like Connor brought a new representative.
As I said goodbye to our two seniors, I welcome Lisa Yu, who is going to be a 10th grader and the new board rep, and she's just observing this time, but she'll be speaking in the coming year.
Welcome, Lisa. How are you?
Good. Great to have you here, Lisa.
So, last day of school, Friday the 13th, we had our field day. It was excellent. People could hang out in the library, eat cotton candy made by the Tatler staff, get their face painted, or go in a bounce house. They could also watch World Cup soccer in the activities building. Testing is going on, and we have local and state examinations. Review sessions have been going on rapidly so that students can prepare academically to refresh and retain the information they've learned throughout the year. And I recall last year someone saying, well, those Board of Education members, they have to go to this graduation. And I said, on the contrary, they get to go to this graduation. We have, for 4 years, students work their tail off, their proverbial tail. And this loads of paperwork, a lot of memories, 4 years of sports, 4 years of activities, what have you, dozens of teachers, and to see them graduate is an awesome opportunity. I know you all share that belief, and so I wanted to advertise graduation, and it's an absolutely awesome thing to witness. So I will conclude with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Board responses, anyone? And welcome, Lisa. We always encourage students to speak with their own voice, so we look forward to hearing from you as we get into the fall. But we meet all summer, so feel free to come, but that's okay if we don't really expect you to be here, but that's okay. So we'll, if nothing else, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I'll move the consent as presented.
Second.
If I could speak to a couple of items.
Please do.
It's kind of jumping the gun. We have in here that we're accepting the report from Train on the energy performance contract. They'll be giving us some more details later in the agenda, but we did meet with them last night at Facilities and Finance and I've asked that the process continue forward and that we accept the report. Just to let you know that was there. Also have a resolution to enter into a lease agreement with our favorite squatters, the city of Ithaca, for a lease on the Marcus Flats for the pool and the basketball court. It's only been 7 years without a lease.
The wheels of government move slowly, Brad.
It's two large, ponderous bureaucracies dealing with one another.
Right.
So, and we pondered a lot, as did they. But anyway, I think we've reached an agreement and are ready to move on a lease on that. And that includes the pool and the basketball court. Not sure there was anything else I needed to...
But we are going to vote on that even though we have not really seen a final contract or...
Yeah, we're just authorizing it to go ahead.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. But as with many things, we'll leave it to the superintendent to wrap it up.
No, I appreciate that. That's fine. Anything else? It is a fairly long consent agenda reviewed yesterday at Finance, I believe.
Cooperative purchasing agreements and things like that get renewed annually.
Right, and that's the language, the whereas is and be it resolved. And Sean, go ahead.
I also have a couple of items. One, I feel like I should stand and give a standing ovation that we may actually have a lease for the Alex Haley pool. It's been a long time coming, so I'm hoping that actually gets done, and I'll be looking forward to when we actually sign that lease agreement. Under the consent agenda, there's a resolution to omit indirect costs for all 2014-15 consolidated Title I and IDE and ARRA grants, and it was citing policy 3263 as one of the ways in which that can happen. We no longer have a policy 3263. We've done with that 3000 series, and so it begs the question of how we should deal with this resolution in particular, given the fact that it deals with finances and grant money as well. And so I'm not sure how to proceed there, but I want folks to know that.
Which one is that?
That is the second resolution, at least in the agenda I have.
Okay.
A resolution to omit indirect costs for all 2014. And this, unfortunately, was not on the facilities and finance agenda yesterday, so I couldn't have raised
Nope,
that
it wasn't.
last day. This is a late addition, so I would recommend that we pull that until we get some more information, unless it's an absolute necessity.
Can we ask who added that today? Who? Amanda, did you add that today? Who added that to the agenda today?
Which part?
The resolution to omit indirect costs for Title I and IDA grants.
I did not add that today.
Who did? Do we know?
I don't know.
It came from a revised consideration of accounts that I received from Angela earlier today, so I'm not sure if she was the one who created it.
So it refers to a policy that we've eliminated?
Yep, and that begs another question. We'll try to figure that out as well, about how everyone makes sure they have the most updated. The website is the most updated policy book, and it's not located on the website either. And I checked my old policy book.
All right, then I'm gonna move that we pull that from the consent. Since I moved the consent, Pat seconded.
I
Okay
would
with that?
second that, yeah.
And ask administration to bring that back if they want on July 1st, but bring it back.
Deal with it then at the reorg meeting.
And I can only add that I regret that I am not as up on policy numbers as Sean, and I did not catch that mistake.
How long have you been on the policy?
Quite all right, Pat. It's a gift.
Not long enough.
Clearly.
So do we need to vote on that motion?
Yes, both of them.
Well, I'm not done. I have some other consent agenda stuff, so I don't know if I'd want to.
Let's do it one at a time. Let's remove that.
Motion to remove that item and was seconded. All in favor? That's going to be everyone. And so moved. And go ahead, Sean.
And I have one more, I don't know if it's concerned, but on the consent agenda is also a resolution to approve cooperative purchasing through, who is this, OCM?
OCM BOCES?
Oh, DCMO BOCES, right.
Yeah.
And so we've been trying to find ways in which to share services, and this is one of the attempts to share services and not theoretically, actually provide the district with cost savings in many regards. regards. With that being said, it causes me a little concern because a couple of years back we had debated policy 6700, Pat, which was about purchasing. And in that policy we explicitly stated two things. One, that all things being equal, that we would try to make sure we stay with local vendors, given the fact that if bids were equal. And I'm not sure if we would lose control if we went with shared services. But much more importantly for me at that point in time, we also decided that we would try not to buy supplies made from prisons. And that was part of our conversation at that point in time. And I'm quite sure that we would lose that capability given this. And so for me, it's something that's hard for me to support without information of those two items, both the idea of making sure when possible we can buy locally for some of our things, but much more importantly, the law about sort of what vendors we actually purchase from was a concern for us as well. And my apologies, there was one other item in that policy 6700 as well, which is making sure that when and where possible and when and where feasible, and I'm glad we have Paul in the audience, that we would try to buy as many environmental products as possible. That's probably a question we could still make, but that was explicitly stated in our policy, and I'm wondering what the DCMO BOCES policies, if they would have a stance on any one of those issues, to be honest.
Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, first I'll speak to the local. I mean, you were still obligated to buy from the lowest bidder. Your point would be if there was a tie, you would pick the local bidder.
And that was in our last policy,
Right.
that exact language.
And I don't think I suspect that's not a problem. They would present us with a tie bid on that. The prison piece, I don't know anything about. I don't know if anything is produced in prisons, sold from prisons now. I don't know if that's old or not. I have no idea. I mean, I'm really not anxious to pull this because I'd like to keep the purchasing moving through the summer. I guess we can ask for that to be researched going forward. I'm just not aware of.
Sure. Well, I think we should assume that that's taking place since it happens all over the state. More the question was, according to the language here, that the Ithaca City School District agrees to abide by the majority vote of DCMO service providers. And so what I'm more trying to figure out is...
that's like with diesel fuel, when we're buying diesel fuel by the train car load with
Sure.
all the other
Sure.
school districts.
Sure. Right.
Yeah, that's reaching the agreement on that because there has to be a depot where...
Yeah, that part I agree, but it also means local control of where we buy products and from who we buy products from if we're going regional. I realize there are cost savings, but there also then the flip side is we always have to decide from whom we do business with.
And we don't when we do the bids ourselves. I mean, we still take the lowest bidder.
We haven't always taken the lowest bidder, but comparable to what the specs are, right? We take the lowest bidder.
Right. I don't know what the others want to do. I'd like to keep the process moving, but I assume we're in the time frame where we're starting to bid things for the next school year, so.
Yeah, my request isn't to take it off the agenda. My request is acknowledging and recognizing my concerns about.
Then let's see if we can't get more information from DCMO on those issues.
Sounds good. We're not pulling it, but
Got the concern.
do it.
Yep. But I think the main concern is to give them their policy. Right? To be consistent.
yeah. And the state prison system does provide products to New York State that are on New York State contract that we do. Well, it's a part of the system, and so we did try to. I do recall that, Sean, and we did. Have that discussion. But that's digging into a lot of state entities there. So, anything else, Sean?
Nope, I think that's it for the time being.
Policy is taken over. That's great. But it's, I'm glad you have that memory and that knowledge of the policies, that's for sure. Anything else? We added, we pulled. Are we good on the consent? Okay. All right. All in favor? That's Judy, Rob, Brad, Seth, Eldred, and Pat, and those opposed is Sean. So, very good. Well, Dr. Brown, a lively consent agenda, so you've got a lot to, step up to right now.
Well, I bring along friends to help with that. So
That's very good. I hope
have some
so.
folks to help me tonight. Before we get into that, just wanted to say I get an opportunity to go to a lot of ceremonies this week, and I'm missing one right now, unfortunately. Boynton's moving up ceremonies happening right now, and the LACS middle school ceremonies happening right now. So some folks I know are attending those. Tomorrow night is LACS's celebration, and then Thursday night is Ithaca High School. Looking forward to having our mayor, Monte Merrick, as the keynote speaker. Mr. Elder Harris, I believe, is going to be representing the Board of Education.
We're looking forward to that.
And Mr. Powers always inspires with his words. So looking forward to celebrating this week. And with that, it's important for us to know that a lot of great things are still happening in our classrooms, and I've had the good fortune of stumbling across yet another great thing happening in the last few weeks of school. So I've asked a friend to come join us tonight to share highlights from what's happening in high school classrooms before the week's exam, because while we do well on tests, being ranked number 1 and number 4 in the state, not bad, but success isn't the only thing we do. We're good at teaching and learning also. So Rebecca Greger, would you mind coming up and sharing a special collaboration you've had, and you have come to closing it in the consult session.
You know, I'll talk for a minute before the slides come up because they're of kids and they're cuter than I am. So Dr. Wright asked me to come and talk tonight about a project that I've done in my Reader's Workshop at the high school. It's a project that I've called A Precious Gift. And it's based on a quotation by children's author Kate DiCamillo, and the quote goes like this: "Reading should not be presented to children as a chore or a duty. It should be offered to them as a precious gift." And so first, a little bit about the class at the high school. Reader's Workshop is a class that is now in its 2nd year. We have...
Machine just like that.
I was hoping you might find out that that happens sometimes. The class is a relatively new class. We've done some playing with course offerings in the English department, and one of the things that we wanted to do was give kids some options so that they're taking some semester classes, and these classes are offered as Regents and honors classes. So students sign up for the class, and then once they're enrolled in the class, they opt for honors credit or Regents credit within the class, which has been pretty interesting, but that's another conversation. So Reader's Workshop, I try to get everybody to sign up for, because I figure if you are a committed reader who is tired of reading what the English teachers have been making you read, and you really just want to get down to reading Russian novels, you should sign up for this class. And if you are convinced that reading sucks and there's no book on the planet that's worth your time, then you should sign up for this class, because I'll convince you otherwise as well. And so faced with seniors in the spring semester of their...
It's doing a lot of crazy stuff.
It is doing a lot of crazy stuff.
Just keep talking. Which one?
All right, it's this one.
Okay, buddies.
It's the bottom one. There you go. Faced with seniors in their spring semester, I thought, well, sometimes they need a little motivation to... it might not be that one. It might be this one now. Anyway, maybe there are pictures.
Yep, this is it.
Seniors sometimes need a little extra something to keep them engaged in the spring of their senior year. And so though they read what they like, largely, I thought it might be neat to get them out of the classroom a lot. We spend a lot of time in the classroom. And so I looked into this project. My idea was to have the seniors buddy up with the first graders at Fall Creek School. We're right next door. It seems kind of obvious. We've got seniors on their way out the door into the world, and we've got first graders just starting to read and entering the education system. And I thought it would be nice to have the seniors engage with the first graders to share their excitement for reading and to think of somebody else. Sometimes, sorry guys, but sometimes teenagers can get kind of self-absorbed. So I thought it would be nice for them to think of the first graders as well. So through a generous grant through IPEI, we embarked on this project. So the seniors, we started by doing some, this may just not work, slideshow.
Yeah.
All right. So we did some reading, some research that we then had a Socratic seminar about. We read the Read Aloud Handbook, first chapter of that by Jim Trelease. Seniors are the next generation of parents, and I feel like they need to know the importance of reading aloud to kids and the skills that that can bring about, not only in reading, but in math and all kinds of things. We read that, and then an article about the importance of books in libraries by Neil Gaiman, and then we had a Socratic seminar. One of the things I love about the class is that it's a mixed level class, and so we had a really interesting conversation about who gets read to and who doesn't get read to, and how that can shape a kid's entire educational experience. We had kids say, gosh, well, maybe some of the students who are behind you, they should get pulled out of class, maybe they should get some extra help. And then some of the kids who had been those kids who'd been pulled out of class and been given the extra help said, that was me, and I hate reading. And so how can we help these kids to love reading? We had a really frank conversation, and then my daughter, who is a student at Fall Creek, and I sat down with the class lists, and we spent some really careful time pairing the seniors with the first graders. And we did a good job. It ended up really cool. The seniors wrote letters of introduction to the first graders. The first graders wrote back. I have never seen seniors more delighted running from the classroom to show their letters to their friends, to their other teachers. And then about a week or two later, we visited Fall Creek with the seniors. The first graders picked books for their senior buddies to read to them, and the seniors read to the first graders, and the first graders read to the seniors. And then to make sure that the reading is fun, as the quote from Kate DeCamilla said, then we went and played on the playground. I've also never seen high school students exercise so much. I think this is a good option for PE. In the slides that aren't showing, you see a lot of sweaty kids, which is great, and lots of hugging, lots of teenagers who became rock stars immediately. And we did this again. We did it twice. And then my students did a lot of research. We talked a lot about reading levels. I asked them to consider what topics they found interesting, that their students, their buddies found interesting. They looked up all kinds of reading levels. They did comparisons. And they chose $18.75 worth of book for their reading buddies. So it was a big hardcover picture book about animals. For others, it was 3 fat novels if their first graders were already reading novels. And then they inscribed them. They wrote a note to tell them why they had chosen this book, to make the kids feel like somebody had chosen a special gift for them, because they had. They inscribed them, they wrapped them. Sometimes they contracted out the wrapping if they were particularly poor at this task, and there was actually really nice teamwork there. And so then we invited the first graders to the high school. We gave them a tour. We let them sit in H Courtyard to get the feeling of what it might like to be like a senior one day. And then we brought them back to the classroom, and the seniors gave the first graders their books. Lots of wrapping paper, lots of sort of happy faces. And then again, to keep it fun, we ate ice cream sandwiches. The seniors like the idea that the first graders always have snack involved, so the sandwiches are like lunch. So we ate ice cream sandwiches. And so not only was the experience delightful, and I really wish this had worked, because the faces of both sets of kids continued to inspire and impress me through the whole project. I knew the first graders would be delighted to have an older teenager take an interest in them. What I didn't know was how delighted the seniors would be. I heard students say things like, I've been a gift receiver my whole life, and I think now I'm becoming a giver. I heard really thoughtful, considered conversations about what would be the perfect book. I had students say, I just can't decide because I feel responsible for what my buddy reads. I want them to enjoy it, but I don't want it to be garbage. It's their brain. And one of the other things that came out that I wasn't expecting at all was an increase in attendance, an increase in homework assignments related to the project. Some, as I said, it's a mixed class of students, and some are students who have been traditionally successful, and some are students who signed up because they took the class because they've always hated reading. And every time that we had either an assignment or a meeting with the first graders, we had 100% attendance. And occasionally I saw students outside of school who maybe should have been in school, and I reminded them, tomorrow we're meeting with the first graders. Tomorrow's the day you have to choose your book for your first graders. And they were always there. Some of these kids, I have young children of my own, I might not have picked as mentors for young children. And what I saw in them was a little bit of straightening up, a little posture improvement. I saw them feel proud of their academic work in a way that I hadn't seen before. And that was completely unanticipated, and it completely blew me away. Both of the first grade teachers at Fall Creek, Chris Bell and Abigail Beaucaire, want to continue with the program. We've already talked about starting it earlier and how we can make it better next year. So we are mostly finished with classes at the high school, but and I'm sorry that the slideshow didn't work, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to you about this today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
And Ms. Dainty, we're going to be talking about a lot of quantitative data later, site level survey data, and I'm going to share some data around attendance, engagement, discipline, on grade level reading. But you can't tell the qualitative data as well as our great teachers can. A lot of folks that come to me every day and say it's been a tough spring or a tough year. I don't feel that at all. For a district that's focused on student achievement, that's happening every day. And to hear it and to see educators like Rebecca and others every day doing the work and connecting with young people that are leading to the quantitative results that we're going to show later in this today in this meeting is important. So thank you for what you do. And to see you doing that in a hot classroom in June and inspiring seniors and first graders was impressive to me. So thanks for being here tonight as well. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks.
That's all for me.
Very good, Dr. Brown. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. Great work. We will go on to school district business and the energy performance contract, and we have our colleagues from Train here who would probably want to come right up here. Bring anybody else you want to.
The entourage?
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Well, there's three of us.
There's plenty of
I'll
chairs.
stand.
No, plenty of chairs right behind you.
And other chairs, okay.
Come on up, guys. Yep.
Thanks for having us back.
And certainly reintroduce yourself to the crowd as you come up.
I will do that. Tough act to follow.
Exactly.
Energy conservation stuff, but nonetheless,
There's
it's
stuff
good
up on the
stuff. So, my name is Tom Nicholson. I'm an account executive with Train. We do have, I think we sent to the Dropbox. Get that up. Also have some handouts if anybody wanted to. Is anybody interested in a printed copy of what we're going to put on the board?
Well, certainly, yes, definitely in the room. And go ahead and,
Just let you guys pass that around.
yeah, definitely. We have it on Dropbox, but other folks certainly can take a look.
I think there's a dozen or so copies. There should be plenty to go around the table. So as I mentioned, I'm Tom Nicholson with Train. I'm the team leader for the group that's here tonight. I have with me Neil Reeser, who is a project developer with Train. He's a constructability guy. Looks at technical solutions and things of that nature. And Matt Pinzas, who is our team leader for the energy engineering group. As the board will recall, about a year ago, Train was selected to work with the district and identify opportunities to reduce cost through energy savings and other forms of operational savings. It was a competitive qualifications-based process. And so as you also know, we've been working on this project since that time with folks trying to be avoid being disruptive, but get through all of the facilities inside and outside and look at everything that would use electricity, gas, oil, any form of energy, and make some recommendations as to how you might reduce your cost. The idea would be to provide you with a vehicle to move forward called an energy performance contract, which is a self-funding program whereby the energy savings and other operational savings generated by the execution of this scope in the project would not only offset the cost, but hopefully with after building aid and recognized savings, generate a positive form of revenue for the district. So we've got some slides that give an overview of what we found. These are general groupings by building. So within that, there are some 150 measures, items that you have as part of this program if you were to go forward. And then we'll move along to a financial projection or a cash pro forma that will show the financial benefit to the district. As you can see, in this column, we have each of the facilities that we believe there are good opportunities to reduce your energy cost and environmental footprint. And then in this column across the top, we have the general groupings. I'm going to probably just sort of generalize what these things are, and you can see the X's here would indicate which buildings that this work would occur in. And then I'll ask for help from my colleagues to expand on anything that I miss. The lighting upgrades, what we like to do is accomplish several things. One, we would like to try to standardize more of what you have with high efficiency, low power, energy efficient lighting, so that you wouldn't be required in the future to have inventories of hundreds of different styles of light bulbs, ballasts, things for the fixtures that you have. That would be a tremendous help for the operations and maintenance crew. It would also significantly reduce cost for that inventory. But more importantly, the upgrades or improvements would focus on very energy efficient retrofits, including LED type retrofits. The exterior lighting would be LED type retrofit. That would reduce light pollution to some extent. It would be a different kind of light in the exterior, the wall packs on the buildings, things of that nature. So there may be some aesthetic benefit. And then there would be other forms of retrofit. The LED would primarily be in a couple of buildings and then scattered throughout where we could fit it into the other buildings. And that would, as I said, be not only exterior but common areas, large gymnasiums, things of that nature. So, and really, the stadium lighting could be part of that mix. That's an LED lighting retrofit to the existing poles and heads. It's I think, is it an entire new head or?
It's an entire new head. Pole stays, head is changed.
So yeah, so the poles are fine, but the whole head would be replaced, and that should be a nice improvement there as well. Building envelope improvements are pretty much district-wide. Those are trying to reduce heat losses or heat infiltration of unconditioned outside air into the building. So it might be cold air in the wintertime, it might be warm air during the summer months when certain locations are air conditioned. So that would include insulation. Oftentimes it's foam, spray foam type insulation, where the roof and wall intersections meet. Today's school construction oftentimes leaves gaps there. You can see daylight if you push ceiling tiles. Not only will that help with energy conservation, but it should also improve comfort significantly for the occupants of the spaces involved. Actually, if I might go back to the lighting, a couple things I missed. You guys feel free to jump in But there are also some advanced controls. There's some occupancy controls, some daylighting sensing that if, for example, you have large windows in a space that would introduce some natural light, then you would need less light from the electrical infrastructure. So they would adjust for that.
Quick question before we move on to about the stadium. I know that part of this is a pretty significant report, researching every building location, going through looking at our infrastructure, our mechanics, and all that other good stuff. And at one point in time, we had a conversation with the finance committee yesterday saying that frequently stadium lights don't make this kind of project because the return on energy efficient light bulbs doesn't actually calculate enough savings to actually make it worthwhile. But at our stadium, you're saying that we actually would benefit from that. Can you speak to that just briefly?
Sure, absolutely. It's a good question. Yeah, we do find that. So lighting, if you can reduce 70% of the power that's consumed by a light fixture, but it only operates for a few hours a year, the total dollar savings aren't really enough to justify any major expenditure. In your case, you get tremendous use out of your stadium. It's phenomenal. And based on the hours of burn time of the lights, the math worked, and it worked quite well. So
There's some operational savings as well, going to a LED style light. LEDs typically have a warranty as long as 100,000 hours of operation. So that exceeds, 20 years at a normal stadium usage. So there's some good benefits. In all likelihood, the lights would have longevity that many of us wouldn't live to see them need to be replaced. So
that's a good point. Yeah, so if you think about it, when you have stadium lights, you have lights on poles in the exterior on the walls up high on the building. You often need to hire an outside contractor to come in with a bucket truck. There's tremendous cost. So by putting in a lighting type that only needs to be replaced maybe once every 20 years, you might save that event from occurring 4 times in the life cycle of those lights. So yeah, there are many other benefits, labor.
As you stated, the lights are on a lot, and that is somewhat of a concern. I love when I'm up on West Hill, I know when things are going on because everybody can see that, okay, the lights are on at the high school. What kind of, is it a different lighting? Is it different quality light? We light up all of downtown sometimes, it seems, but...
Yeah, LED is traditionally more of a more directed light, and so it'll be more directed towards the point of use, and also the lighting is more bright and white, so you get away from the yellow lights and stuff that aren't appealing to the eye. So when you change the color of the light, you require a lot less of it for it to be noticeable by the eye. So we are able to drop the wattage down to like 10% of what's there, and so that it's a huge improvement. The visibility on the field is greatly improved also.
So likely to be improved for the participants, but for the neighbors, it's going to be noticeable that there won't be as much.
They'll be happier.
That's I think trying to make the
we
point.
believe that will be the outcome. It should be a welcome change.
But as you go through the projects, obviously there's many. You have three major areas that seem to affect most of the district, and then you have a few one-offs, and you eventually talk about the pool, I suppose. But you're talking about a one-off now about the stadium lighting. If you want to just go ahead and talk about the pool now, as far as really that's a one-off, and then you can certainly go ahead to the control system.
Yeah, the pool's fairly comprehensive retrofit. I guess I'll let Neil describe the scope on that, but it's. Why don't you go ahead?
Sure.
The existing unit that's up above the ceiling and above the pool is going to be abandoned in place. We're going to supply a new unit that will meet current codes. Not that unit doesn't meet codes for the time it was installed, but it will meet the current codes for today. The unit will be out on the roof on some structural steel so that it's much easier for the maintenance guys to get to and be able to maintain. Right now, up in that crawl space, it's very difficult to get up there and do the work that you need to do to an aging unit that does require a lot of maintenance to it. Along with the new unit, which will maintain the temperature and humidity to a very tight band. That unit will be pulled into your DDC system, your temperature control system, so that it can be seen from an operator's workstation, and the maintenance folks can view it remotely in case there is issues or problems or any situations that they need to take a look at. On top of replacing the pool unit, we're going to put a pool cover on, and then also, of course, as Tom mentioned with lighting, the lighting will be addressed in the pool area also.
The new pool unit will it'll double the amount of fresh air that comes into the space, and it does it in a smart way using heat recovery so that you don't suffer the impact of having to condition all that air. And so by bringing in more fresh air, it's going to make the space a lot more enjoyable, and it's going to go a long way to address the humidity concerns and temperature concerns that are there now. So
overall, it'll be a better environment.
Yeah,
It'll be much
yes.
more pleasant to be in that room for any event.
So the combination of all those things would definitely control humidity better, would definitely control temperature better, and definitely reduce energy use, should reduce any odors from off-gassing of the chemicals of chlorine, the typical pool type chemicals.
It's been a big issue, yeah.
And significantly reduce the usage of chemicals. The pool cover that Neil mentioned is automated. It'll be mounted in a remote location that's out of the way. It does need to be initiated by an operator. So there would be a remote control. Someone would come in, inspect that everybody is left the pool area, and then be able to activate it. It takes all of about 3 minutes to actually come down and work its way across the pool.
Why do you want the pool covered?
Pool covers offer tremendous energy savings. They reduce the amount of heat loss and evaporation of pool water. So there's heat loss savings while you leave it covered when the pool is unoccupied. There's no longer going to be evaporation of the pool water, so you don't need to buy water to make that up with. When the water evaporates, chemicals evaporate with that, so it reduces the usage of chemicals, and so it's kind of a three-legged stool.
it saves the infrastructure of the pool area, all those chemicals evaporating. If you can cut that in half, then it theoretically extends the life of your area by double. And then, also the amount of heated water that you have to put into the pool.
I would think it would have some impact on air quality,
Currently, the way, without a cover, the air handler has to run 24 hours a day to try to manage the humidity in the space.
Right.
But if you cover the pool and the water's no longer evaporating, then the unit doesn't have to run 24/7. So there's added benefit by being able to cycle the air handler.
The automated,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
So there had previously been no pool cover, is that correct?
Yes. And that's not uncommon. More and more schools, when they have a project and they're able to do this, they'll consider adding one. Occasionally there's some pushback. If it's a manual thing, folks, just they don't have the staff sometimes to do this. So the fact that now technology is where you can have it be an automated process, it's not much of an inconvenience, but there's tremendous benefit. It's worthwhile.
Useful life on a pool cover?
Do you guys know the answer to that?
In the residential world, they don't last all that long, but I assume...
This is much more of an industrial material. I would want to look it up, but I believe that it would be in the 20-year range.
That would be...
With proper care, of course.
Sure.
They're not, because it's not a solar cover, so it's not exposed to the elements outdoors like the home. It's a little bit different scenario there. So, yeah, so that was kind of the one-off. Well, then we have a couple others, window replacements and high-efficiency boilers. There are There are several locations that we've recommended replacing the boilers. Probably more discussion will be held in the future regarding when we get into the design stages regarding what to do, at least in the case of Danby. Danby or Enfield? Enfield, I'm sorry.
Enfield.
Yeah, with regards to some underground fuel oil tanks and that kind of thing. So Paul had some ideas and some concerns and some thoughts, so we'll address those as we go forward, assuming that we do. But in those cases where we would retrofit boilers, we would go to a high-efficiency condensing style gas boiler. They're in the neighborhood of 95, 96% energy efficient, as compared with, for example, in the high school boilers that have baselined according to our field surveys at about 57.7%. So significant improvement in the efficiency of the heating plant there. It would also update some aging infrastructure that currently, Paul, experiences a high cost for maintenance and repair bills. So we have that benefit. And window replacements, do one of you guys want to speak to what we looked at there, recommended?
Sure. The Bellstrom and the annex, there's windows that the gaskets have failed on. Several of the windows have inches of water in between the sections, and they pose, a comfort concern and an energy concern. Windows are traditionally a long payback. I don't know if anyone's looked at them for their homes. They're very costly. It's no different here, but it'll go a long way to tighten the building envelope and improve the comfort of the space.
Somebody left the windows open in their car.
Yeah, I don't have a convertible, so I'm good. So windows, and then in a few spots, not to move things along, but water comfort and conservation.
Sure.
Is that we're talking bathrooms, maybe?
Yes.
We've heard a lot about bathrooms, as you probably know.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. So we started out looking at fixtures, toilet sinks, the typical fixtures, and trying to identify their usage, and then retrofit solutions that would offer water efficiency savings. And then we learned that there were some bathrooms that were concerned throughout the district that were out of order, maybe were in need of some deferred maintenance and repair. And so we looked at some additional items for those areas whereby we could replace china, some sinks and toilets, and of course all the fixtures and the hardware. Where we can, we'll try to do things to improve the situation with partitions. But they're not complete bathroom renovations, but bathrooms will be fully functional and in good working order when we're finished with the water conservation improvements. In addition to that, you recognize the benefit from the less usage of water.
And it's likely the cost of water is going to go up in the future, so it's...
We understand that there's a project underway to significantly improve or provide a new infrastructure here, and with that, it's our understanding that water costs will be going up. So while you'll start out saving money, as water costs go up, that will be a greater and greater benefit to you over time.
But if the bathrooms don't work, we don't use any water, so it's... but if we do fix, it would be good if we fix them in an efficient way. I think that's correct, right? We do want them to work. I think that's it is necessary.
I think the students would like it.
I think that's yes, indeed.
So there's big, and with the building envelope improvements, there are a number of other things beyond insulation that we're going to do. We probably could even group the windows in there in some cases where you have.
And Tom, some of the big, well, I mentioned it yesterday, really some of the biggest savings, looking forward is probably in the control strategies, control systems. Is that true? Or?
Right. So you have multiple manufacturers of digital energy management control systems that the building operators use to manage temperature and and occupancy schedules of the buildings and other functions of the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning systems. Those don't all talk to one another right now, so, they may have been, I heard earlier some discussion about obligations to purchase the lowest responsible bidder. Sometimes in projects that happen years apart from one another, you end up with different products that don't necessarily play nice together. We're going to try to reduce that number, consolidate the number of controls vendors that you have throughout the district, standardize that, and we are going to provide a dashboard. And this is in addition to energy conservation strategies that we'll do through enhancement of the existing controls that you have. But we're going to try to add a dashboard that would allow a building operator from one location to be able to see all the critical information, not all of the information, but critical information, what a heating plant is doing in each one of several different buildings, or what some of the critical temperatures, or if the pumping systems are not working, things that would need to be addressed to provide, the usual comfort expected for those buildings when occupied. So we're going to try to bring that together, and that also should be a tremendous benefit beyond the energy savings, just for the operations and maintenance.
So we've kind of had a long-standing struggle with laboratories at the high school, and I seen you put mostly at the high school where needed. Could you talk specifically to the new toilets and sinks, etc., that how they differ from the ones currently in place?
I will defer to my good friend, Mr. Reeser, who's spent a lot of time crawling around through buildings and probably has a good idea of what the difference might be.
Typically, the older china is, believe it or not, a different technology that might kind of sound funny for a piece of china, but it was designed, let's take a toilet, for example, for a 3.5-gallon flush. You have the newer china, which is designed for a 1.6-gallon flush. So the replacing the china, you can replace the actual flushometer that controls the amount of water, and that is a huge step forward to savings. But the older china doesn't work as well with less water. It will work, but it doesn't work as well as it could. So predominantly, we're looking at all of the older china that would be, for instance, again, the toilets are 3.5-gallon. Any of the urinals that are over a 1 gallon, and then sinks, that really doesn't apply to it, but we're looking at the faucets to have a more efficient faucet with also aerators. So the aerator actually restricts the amount of water that faucet is capable of providing. Those are primarily the three things.
In most cases, based on the usage of the fixtures, when you roll it all up, you save typically around 50% of the water, in round figures. So it goes a long ways, and some of your water rates are in excess of $14 per 1,000 gallons. So when you have all these students pushing gallons of water down the toilet, you're saving half of that by upgrading the fixtures.
And there's a thermal savings too, because if you're also not using hot water at the sinks, if you're restricting the amount of water you're using, you're saving hot water too. So there is similar savings from the domestic hot water production.
It's certainly not to a point where there's any impact to the functionality. The fixtures will still work. They don't waste water anymore. They just provide the right amount for the function. And it wouldn't be, a toilet's a toilet and the urinal's a urinal. We aren't looking at anything crazy. There are actually waterless urinals. They work with chemicals and essentially it's just hooked to the sanitary piping systems. Those, are a little bit controversial, so there's nothing crazy like that. This is more of just making what you have work so that you have fully functional bathrooms.
So, Tom, there's lots of X's there. Dollars, scope, are you ready to talk about that?
Yeah, we could do that. There's pro forma. Yeah, and as I said, there's, I think, as it stands right now, we looked at over 300 energy conservation measures for the district. We looked at even things like renewable energy, wind power, some solar options, and we looked at trying to draw some natural gas from the ground at one of their sites. And we have, based on what can pay for itself out of existing budget and generate the maximum level of aid for the district, we boiled it down to about 150 measures that we're recommending. So this, hopefully everybody can see that. It's a little bit blurry, it's a little bit, maybe that's just me.
There you go.
A little bigger.
There we go.
There you go.
So we can scroll a little bit. I don't need my cheaters anymore. So down here, we're recommending a project. All those things collectively would result in about a $10.1 million project. It could be slightly less than that if there's an adjustment made for one of the boiler plants that we discussed earlier. The current spend on energy for the district now is about $1.5 million a year. After the project, it would be roughly $862,000 a year based on today's utility rates. So the reduction in your utility expenditure would be about $556,000. There are some operations and maintenance savings. We talked about some of those items. You wouldn't have the need for bucket trucks at nearly the same frequency for exterior lighting to change fixtures on poles, things of that nature. The burn time is, in some cases for LEDs, 4 or 5 times or greater. So in between replacements for lighting, so your inventory of lighting materials would go down dramatically. This is not a large number, and it doesn't include any labor, and there's a significant amount of labor savings that would also be a benefit to the district through Paul's gang and the operations and maintenance staff. There's an ongoing support, maintenance and validation cost associated with this. So we'll be around for the duration, providing reports to you on the energy savings, supporting energy procurement, helping you with whatever your needs might be in regards to energy, and also supporting Paul and his group with the ongoing operations and maintenance. So if we look at the map here, we kind of follow it down. You borrow some money, you borrow $10 million, you make these improvements. It nets out a result and then attracts building aid, and for example, year one would generate $170,000 of positive net cash benefit to the district. So that would be a surplus, essentially, after you realize the savings in the building aid on your current budget. That cumulatively goes across, and if we scroll to the other end, we could see where it ends up at the end of the 18-year period. You would end up with a cumulative benefit of $7.5 million. So that, in effect, is revenue to the Ithaca City School District that you currently wouldn't realize without doing this project. There will be about $500,000 in grants that we have already notified NYSERDA that we're applying for. We also will try to leverage, the utility companies have grant programs as well. So we kind of work both of those, and we try to come up with the optimal combination of grants. If the utility pays more for an LED lighting retrofit than we could get through a NYSERDA program, we'll exploit that program. This would all be on your behalf, and all this money would flow back to the district ultimately.
Question for our financial superstars. That net number, the 170 that we might recoup in
Right.
the first year, that doesn't include the debt service.
No, that's after debt service.
After debt service.
That's after debt service. That's the net, that's the bottom, the cash flow he's got there is actual after debt service. It's
Net.
Net.
7 million at the
Is
end,
net
the same.
net.
After we...
That's net.
That's a good thing.
Well, it is a good thing, and it's...
The state, certainly the state aid is key. That's $509,000. Without that, that's...
I mean, you can take a look. You can see the simple payback is 17.7 years, but when you've got state aid thrown in, it's 8.9 years. Pretty good return.
I like this math.
Go ahead, Pat.
I just, the annual energy cost without improvement, as I look at that, that's showing a fairly low rise over the next 18 years, so that's really factoring in very little.
3% is what we typically carry. Any given snapshot that we take, we've seen that it tends to actually trend closer to 10%.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
So-
That's a very conservative estimate
Yeah, right.
and doesn't take into consideration that huge increase in water prices that we're all talking about.
No, that's a good point. That's an excellent point. And in fact, this is really a representation. This is a projection. It's obviously, if it was history, then it would be actual. In this case, it's our best guess of where things will go. So we've agreed that 3% is a conservative cost escalator to apply to this financial projection. If in fact your energy costs were to go up by more than 3% a year, then these numbers would be bigger. Ultimately, the difference and the benefit to you would be larger. So but also the impact to your budget would be greater if costs rise. But the benefits of the project would
But the borrowing costs are set.
fixed.
That's not going to escalate along with cost, so.
That's correct.
You're realizing the benefit, but okay, I'll let finance guys go. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
So I've been trying to get my mind around this for a little bit of time, and so to the good folks up here and to the board as well, let me know if I finally got this correct. Part of the project is asking us to take out a $10 million loan to finance significant improvements to our infrastructure, particularly around the environment, right? So to use less, to leave a lower carbon footprint, to actually be a better steward of the environment in some regards. And so to do so, the way in which you have it calculated, which we even talked about in finance yesterday, may even be a little bit high in terms of our possible interest rates given our credit rating. But to take out that $10 million loan over 18 years, we have a lease payment of roughly $900,000. Is that correct? I mean, that's the actual payment.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
To complete that, we'd end up saving about $500,000 a year in energy costs. So while we may have a lease payment of $900,000, we recoup $500,000 of that back in energy costs.
Right.
In addition to that, we receive aid on those lease payments, on the loans,
On the improvements. Right.
and if you add up all those things combined, along with other savings in terms of management, deferred maintenance, etc., we're talking about doing this project and having, in the first year, $170,000 of positive cash flow, even after making all these improvements to our building. And the best part, if I understand this correctly, if we don't have that savings, you write us a check anyway.
That's correct. That's
do I got this?
You got it.
Do I got this wrong? Like,
No.
if this is what you promised us and we don't achieve this, you are on the hook.
Yes. So when this program was established in the early 90s, the energy performance contracting legislation, it's through New York State energy law and also by regulations from the Commissioner of Education. Public entities, including school districts, are able to make these kinds of capital project investments so long as there is an entity who will back up and guarantee that you will recoup the investment over a given period of time. They choose 18 years. So that's how this is structured for the 18-year guarantee. And that's correct. We don't guarantee the dollars. What we guarantee are energy units saved, which when we use your current rates and escalators and things, they translate into dollars so we can see it in this sort of format. But yes, we're going to guarantee and we're going to reconcile by point source measurements. We'll measure certain things before and after the retrofits. In maybe not every light fixture, but samplings of a group. We've got this many of this type.
And that's in an even simpler way. We're going to make money to fix our pool.
Yes, sure.
Take that back to the students.
Well, all right, let me...
Yeah, that's
Right. You went to something that I was going to say. We have to get to a payback of 18 years or less.
Simple payback, yeah.
Simple payback. Some of these items pay back in 3 years, 5 years. It's an average.
Right.
So we're able to do things like the pool that don't have a payback that short, but on average, they've structured this so that we have a simple payback that fits the energy performance contract rules. And so not every individual item stands alone, able to justify itself, but the project in aggregate does.
The total portfolio.
The total portfolio. So I just want to be clear that not everything we're doing has a payback of 18 years or less. I mean, there are actually some things in there that have 50-year paybacks, but we've got other things that are, the windows.
Yeah.
But we've got things that are 2.5 years, so the average works out.
But certainly a benefit to the district and the taxpayer to fix a number of items this way rather than just out of our general operating budget to go ahead and fix. And Pat had a question.
My question is about the actual timeline for the repairs and the changes. So, I mean, this is not a one-year project, is it? Or is it?
Well, probably pretty close to that, but you know, it depends what you consider the start and completion. So maybe 1 year of construction, would that be fair?
That would be fair.
I mean, we're planning to start, you're planning to start this by next summer.
Yeah, so like all of the capital work that you do here, there's a process. We're required to establish design documents, plans, specifications that we submit to the state's architects and engineers at the State Education Department. They then let it sit for about 6 months on a desk somewhere in a queue. When it comes up, everything's just data's logged in, and they get picked off a pile until they get to this project. They're somewhat understaffed, so that process takes a long time. Currently, it is about 6 months, where once we submit all the plans and specifications, they'll wait. Ultimately, they pick them up, they review them, we volley back and forth, they make sure that everything we're going to do is code compliant, that it all meets the commissioner's regulations in terms of energy paybacks, that the measures are valid measures. Once they've approved that, then we would be in a position to help the district facilitate the financing, getting it funded, and start construction. It's pretty quick from that point.
Okay, it was just the way your costs and savings are projected, it's pretty much $170,000 a year with the increase, and so to me that assumed that all the improvements were over the span of a year, but just having dealt with contractors, it seems so quick.
Yeah, so this assumes this is year one of a completed project.
Okay.
That would be the net. That's a good point. So if you decide to move forward and have us start to develop contracts, plans, specifications, all of the things that would support this project with the State Education Department, you know, this isn't going to happen right away.
Right.
And so, and what this cash flow doesn't show, but we point out down here, there's this estimated value of $427,000 of grants. That probably would come back and hit you guys over 1 year or 2. Depends how long it takes NYSERDA or you know, the local utility to process that. The project needs to be completed for their purposes as well, so they can validate that what we said we were going to do actually happened. And then in addition to this, there's roughly another $100,000 that we've already engaged with NYSERDA on, applied for relative to the study that we've been working on for the past year. So this effort, this energy audit, this project development agreement, will realize significant funds, and that probably has a chance of, it's probably in the 14-15 budget cycle that you can realize. I mean, it may be a benefit that you see sooner than later for that $100,000 piece.
And there will be construction period savings as well, you know, as we complete our project during the construction.
We'll begin to see savings as soon as any of this is implemented.
So, yeah, by each measure just kind of builds. Sure. That's a good point.
So Judy Maxwell brings up a good point. We've been through it before. So obviously, Train is a private company in it for, you know, the work. And so how does Train get paid?
Well,
this is public, right? We're in public, and so we're entering into a contract. We have, or will continue to enter in a contract. So how does Train get paid out of what we're going to do?
Sure, fair question. Really the same as with any capital project. So you would go out and secure funding. We would perform work. We will provide an affidavit that we've paid all of our subcontractors, that every contractor or trade discipline has been paid. We'll provide a schedule of values, which line items, each thing that we say we've incurred cost for, that will total an amount that we're invoicing you for. you or whomever your representative would be will authorize that, and then we'll make that draw payment. So as we build things, we'll provide evidence to you. You'll know, obviously, we'll be working with your folks. And then, we have an architect and engineering, other professional services that are
They have a
attached
fee,
with
they
this.
have a fee built into their,
Your fee.
Yeah, this,
they have their fee built
our
into my
our
fee.
profit and overhead is part of this program.
Like Judy, like all the projects that we did throughout the non-referendum.
What percentage?
The amount financed covers all costs.
What percentage approximately of the 10 million
Is
would you see?
Well, it's hard to say. We have to set aside 7% roughly for professional services, architectural engineering. Then, we've got our profit and overhead. It's probably going to be in the neighborhood of 20+%. As we put together spreadsheets for the state, there's a certain limit to what you can have that are assigned to incidental costs. And so if you go beyond that, then they don't, those incidental costs wouldn't be aidable. We always try to stay within that range. So the percentage will vary. Some items we don't need as much design work on, so the percentages would go down. Others are pretty intense, and so we would, overall though, we're going to submit a front-end document to the state, try to keep those incidental costs in the 20% range.
Thanks.
And where we are in the process now, we've asked them to continue forward. And as part of that, they'll be working on a contract for the work. So we've not approved that at this point, but we've told them we're at a point where we're comfortable with the project and want them to move ahead and move toward a contract.
Okay.
And I think I can ask the Finance Committee to speak, but I think the recommendation to the board was to not dig into too many of the X's. If this is a package, if it does look like it is going to be flowable and doable, then frankly, try to do as much as we can within this, but not to get too down in the weeds about the various items, but there may be one or two that we'll take a look at, whether it's...
There was one brought up last night to take a longer look at. And we're going to let Paul and Amanda work with them on that. The heating plant at Enfield is the question.
Oh.
We have provided to the district our draft report that's going to NYSERDA associated with that $100,000 grant request. That is about this thick, and it would have information on all 300 or so items that we identified. The 150 that we're going to recommend will be what's in our contract, so it's taking from that, but that's a deliverable that is now properly.
And we now possess the document on the 300, so we have the other items that can be considered a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, but we are going to have to do a state-required building survey, and this will put us way ahead on getting that done.
Yeah, we priced out in excess of $20 million worth of opportunities that had varying payback and it affected your needs to different levels. And so these are refined measures working with Paul and Amanda and the maintenance staff that make the most sense for you and provide the best benefit bang for the buck.
You own a lot of, this community owns a lot of real estate in the educational institutions that are occupied here, so it's a never-ending challenge to keep up with facilities, just as it is everything else that's part of your core business.
So the point from the board's perspective, I guess, if I could speak, was to try to keep this moving and let it be handled, and so we can concentrate on the great work that Rebecca is doing at the high school and the folks at Fall Creek and
And so they have windows. Yeah.
right. So they have the fishbowl windows at Bell Sherman. It is nice to have a water feature in your classroom. I'm not sure that's probably the way you want to do it, but it's but there's a lot of things like that we can upgrade. So anything else? And guys are doing great work, and but it will continue. And we did not want to stand in the way because we know it's going to take another year to get through SED. So as soon as we can keep moving forward, we would like to I think, do that. Whenever we have to vote on anything, we're glad to do that. We're glad to keep it moving.
We appreciate that. We appreciate your attention to these efforts and your eagerness to move forward with this. I mean, it's truly a win-win for everybody that's involved and everybody that's affected by it. It saves money, it improves the environment, it's good stuff.
We have calculated some environmental benefits, pounds of CO2, cars, equivalent vehicles taken off the road, and that stuff. I apologize.
We can provide that.
We provide that.
When we give you an update, we can say, hey, here's where the project is at. We've taken 100,000 cars off the road here.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I mean, that's
And there is that, well, we haven't talked about it tonight, there's that educational piece that,
yes.
Yeah, that certainly should be tapped into, whether it's at middle school, high school, or whatever, about...
They'll be doing work in all the buildings.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Opportunity to interact with the students.
We would be glad to help in any way we can. We have some curriculum that we would share with curriculum folks, curriculum writers. We have other ways that we can help out. And even if it's as simple as having folks from our organization come into a classroom and talk about career opportunities. I mean, there are all kinds of things that we're happy
Great.
to work with.
Excellent.
So, yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Very good, Dr. Brown. Are we talking sports and Montessori again? Is that-
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Oh, I hear a voice. Come on up,
I'm smiling really big. It's because I just got great news about the pool and stadium lighting.
We're trying to work on this stuff, Danielle. Nobody believes us that we actually want to fix bathrooms at the high school, but it'll happen.
It will happen.
And the pool, yes.
After Connor graduates.
That, frankly, is a part of the timing, but go ahead,
So, EAC Montessori has approached me about merging our modified sports for the fall. They have asked for cross-country, football, and soccer, and I'm requesting that we actually merge all the sports except boys soccer. One of the reasons why I'm requesting to merge all of them is what I found with the Montessori schools, sometimes students decide pretty last minute to pick a sport, and it's hard for me to go back and say you can or can't. So it'd be easier if we just said yes to all the sports except boys soccer. So that's what I'm here to talk about.
Do you have any estimates on how many participants, or can you tell us how many participants there were last fall?
Sure. So football we had 40. Boys soccer.
How many from Montessori?
Oh, for Montessori. I'm sorry. For cross country we had 2 or 3. I'm pretty sure it was 3.
Okay,
Yeah, and that was it.
that was it, okay.
Go ahead, Pat.
And this year, I'm sorry, they had 1 boy for football, 1 boy for cross country, and 1 boy for boys soccer.
Okay. I'm going to ask the non-sports question. When you say all the sports, could you please enumerate those sports?
Sure. That's cross country. That's boys and girls soccer. That's boys and girls cross country.
Okay.
Boys and girls soccer, and football.
Okay, so boys and girls soccer. So girls soccer was the only one you didn't mention.
Right. So boys soccer, girls soccer. Right. We're not probably going to have cuts for that. So if girls wanted to play soccer for Montessori, that would be, in my opinion, would be fine. But boys, last year we had 48 boys soccer players from Ithaca City School District try out, and we just accommodated all of them. So we made no cuts last year, which is the first time in quite a bit. So I would prefer not to add to those numbers. We just were able to add all of DeWitt and Boynton, DeWitt, and LACS students.
Do we have 2? We added a modified?
We have 2 boys soccer.
So they were each at 24?
They were each at
That's
24.
pretty-
And we can do that this year
We
again.
can do that again this year. We can.
We have the coaches, or it's in the budget for
Yeah.
the athletic department to have that many coaches.
Luckily, the way the cuts that I went through the budget, I was able to save every coaching position in every team. Now, there's some
Very good.
places where my office is going to be suffering and our equipment we're not going to order, and my secretary doesn't have overtime, so you'll see me around a lot more. But in terms of the impact to the students, it was it's not good. It wasn't as big. That was fine.
Good, Chuck.
So my understanding is that this request is for an athletic merger for modified sports for fall sports.
Right.
That's all we're talking about currently,
That's-
fall sports.
We got no request from Immaculate?
Immaculate only goes to 6th grade now.
Oh, okay.
Right, there's not been an issue for the last few years, as they have no modified
Right.
programs. Education programs, I should say. Go ahead.
I'll move support of the merger with EAC Montessori Athletics for modified fall sports except for boys soccer.
I will second it.
Oh, Pat, second. Good, very good. All in favor? That's everyone.
They're
And,
fine.
We have a beer quorum now.
well, Seth and Eldred, there were events tonight, so just about. Jay is out of town. Chris has graduation tonight.
Thanks,
Well,
Daniel.
so-
Wow, that was
Thank you, Daniel.
Hi. Thanks.
Well, Dr. Brown, you've been quiet for a while. I think it's, are we site-based?
Yeah. If I may, with the time I have, I want to not only talk about the site level climate survey,
Site level, thank you.
but also some other data points as we approach the end of the year, and I think it's important to share some data about where we are. The site level surveys that was administered it was open from March 7th through April the 3rd. We had over 1,300 people respond. I'm not very happy with the response rate. We're going to do some things next year to increase that response rate. Instead of going through a bunch of slides, I want to direct the board and the community. We have all of the data and slides under Your Voice, the Your Voice tab on the website. You can click there, scroll down to 2014 School Climate Survey Report. And when clicking on that report, I think it's around 25 or 30 different slides that really goes through all of the questions, the demographic information, the response rate, etc. I thought I would just highlight some things. That 1,300 folks, obviously we want to have around 65 or 70% response rate, and that's around 25%. So we already talked about what we can do in the future to get the word out about responding. The survey was a survey of students, staff, and parents in the community, and it looked at faculty relations support and academic preparation for our young people, and just an overall sense of how folks think we're doing as a school district. Some highlights: over 90% of those who responded of staff members who responded say they enjoy working in our schools. Over 90% of those who responded enjoy working in our schools. 86% of the students agree that their teachers help them with things they need help on. Just that simple. 86% of those students. 86% of parents feel that there is a teacher, counselor, or staff member who can help their child with a school problem. I've done similar site-level climate surveys in the past, and all three of those numbers are way higher than I've ever seen. While we aren't happy with the response rate of those who responded, that's what we got. And typically, the most negative folks are those who respond, and I think we saw the exact opposite with those who responded to our survey. Some areas for us to improve. Many folks noted we need to continue to work on bullying, anti-bullying efforts. And it's good that we have some folks on staff now who are focused on our approach to DASA. And specifically, an increase in effectiveness of the secondary guidance counselor program was noted often in the surveys through the verbatim survey responses and the questions. So something that we're going to continue to look at as well. We've shared the macro information with our principals and the verbatim responses with our principals, and they're planning to share this information with their staff and engage in continuous improvement conversations. Some lessons learned for me, again, we're working with Kate, our communications coordinator, and other folks about how we can get the word out about how to get more folks to respond. We're looking at some different technologies to have this be the landing page on every district machine for a while, so and asking folks to respond to the survey. And just to clear up, some confusion existed, and some folks thought that we tracked individual IP addresses for these surveys. That's not possible, first of all, on a survey like this, and not something we were doing. We said it would be anonymous, and it was an anonymous survey. It's just that simple. So we're hoping that we can be even more clear about the anonymity associated with the survey And we saw some of the verbatim responses. If folks want us to know who they are, they'll let us know who they are when they write down exactly what they think. So that's something we'll talk about next year. And then again, as we saw tonight, in challenging times, fiscally challenging times, folks still like to work here. And it was clear, folks who responded, they like working in our school district and they think it's a good place to be and to learn. So, some highlights from the survey. Again, the data and the slides are online for anyone to see. And be looking for more information as we hope to do some things early in the fall to talk about how this is an important data gathering process for us as an organization. I was going to shift, but any questions about the site level survey before I move on to some more school and district level data? Student achievement data?
Connor?
Yes.
How was the survey promoted?
Press releases on our website, via emails. Every person in our school tool system received an email asking them to respond. So again, we're going to be looking at other ways to promote it on. I think we learned a lot through the most recent budget process about how to get the word out and get people to rally around a particular initiative. And I think we're going to use some of those strategies as well.
Dr. Brown? I think with the anonymous thing, that might be an avenue to work on just to make sure people do understand it's anonymous, because, I mean, if I were an untenured teacher or someone new to the district, I mean, I know legally we don't have expectation of privacy on the district's network, because we just don't, because this is our employer. And some of the questions, even if I knew for certain it was completely anonymous, some of it was, what building do you work in? What grade level do you work in? If you took 3 or 4 questions together, it would narrow it down very quickly that it's Cuba Heights, first grade, that's one of 3 possibilities, I'm one of them. And then based on something else I say, you can pretty easily, so I think that that's assuring people, students and community members and teachers, that it's anonymous and that there will be no reprisal, that there will be, I mean, not to say that there was anything nefarious about it, but just making sure people understand that that is the case. I think would go a long ways towards people feeling comfortable filling something like this out.
Thanks, man.
Because it is really valuable data.
Yeah, very valuable, and thanks for sharing that. And I'll add, part of the continuous improvement effort is to also change culture. When we say that something is anonymous, we really mean it. It's not like there's a hidden agenda, or will we use this data to hold someone accountable in a different way. I mean, we're using this data to get that, not to see who thinks differently or what's upset at the principal. That's not why we do this kind of survey. So that's, again, part of the culture shift that we're hoping to be a part of. So thanks for sharing that.
Oh, I just to address that, or just not to really address it, but to just clarify, do you have data on what percentage of teachers responded, what percentage of students responded, what percentage of parents in the districts responded?
Yeah, I have that, and I can pull it up on.
It would be I don't know if you were saying that teachers were either afraid to answer or were answering incorrectly, because with my experience with surveys like this is that you get the people who are extremes, right? Really happy or really angry, and they're the ones who bother. And so if an untenured teacher were afraid, would they be more likely just not to fill it out, or would they be more likely to say something, overly glowing? I didn't. Do you have any?
The superintendent's wonderful, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have the. It's in the report. I can bring it up and tell you what the response rate was for individual teachers. But
So to add on to Ryan, because I think that, from the teacher standpoint, we all agree with what he said, that it was really confusing. And then if you get an alert a couple days later that you haven't done the survey yet, it's hard to get somebody's mind off of, wait, they know exactly who's responding. So if the district owns the company, or is contracted with the company or whatever that's producing this, if there's this automatic assumption, well, then you have rights to have them give you, what you're doing. So if you get an alert 3 days later that you haven't completed it yet, it's to your specific email address, and it's one code. So if you sent it to somebody else and said, oh, did you get the survey? It said, oh, you've already done it. So all of those things just make it, that's why you're getting a low percentage, is those things can't be there if people really feel like they're gonna be safe in what they say. So I agree with Pat that people probably just didn't do it then and were like, that seems traceable. So.
They give us a lot of credit. They give us a lot of credit for time. I mean, to sort through 1,300
I'm hoping
responses
this isn't
and
the only
sort them
survey
back.
folks have taken.
You give us credit for a lot of time. Nobody's got time to
That would freak me out.
Right, you got an alert that you hadn't done it yet. And then if you clicked on your link again, it said, you've already done this.
Which I did try, and it did tell me I already did it.
And so there's certainly some tracking happening, and certainly with surveys, in order for them to be valid, you can't be filling it out numerous times. I mean, because if you have a certain axe to grind or something even positive that you want to say, you certainly don't want to go in, kind of like when, Ithaca was in that outdoor magazine thing, you go in and like vote multiple times to try to get his numbers up. You don't want that to happen. They eventually put something into place so people couldn't do that, couldn't stuff the ballot box. So certainly those have to be in place, but it does make you think, and I'm not saying that there are people sitting around computers somewhere, doing this, because who has that kind of time, but it does give people pause when they, when you do anything online nowadays, it's just that whole privacy thing. And so it's just a concern, and it might lead to some lower numbers, like you were saying you wish that it was more than 20%, and I'm offering up a possible explanation as to why that could be. No one has said that to me, but that is a possibility. So
this is why I don't have a cell phone. I don't want anybody to be able to know where I am. I'm fine. I'm on TV. I'm here right now.
And one final
Yeah, I've got
if folks are upset, we want to hear about it. If they're happy, we want to hear about it. If there are opportunities for us to improve, we want to hear about it. That's why we do this. There are many other ways to get other information or to hold folks accountable in different ways or to hear negative feedback. This isn't it. We're here, like, we all get emails to do surveys, dozens of them probably every day, and many of us are doing them. But we're doing this to get information to get better, but no other purpose. So we will continue to work on it.
Yeah, it's it is interesting. The ICSD is a branch of NSA. I mean, that's an interesting idea.
Theory.
Yeah, who knew? I mean, but we run into this all the time when we are always surveyed at work as well. From corporate, for a variety of reasons, and they do know when you have not done it because they look for 100%, but supposedly it is anonymous at the for corporate, but they certainly know if you have not done it or not. And I get reports of who has not done it.
That's an appropriate way to survey.
So, so that's pretty consistent, not just here, but for surveys done by large corporations as well. Anyway, you have other
more quantitative data. I've been asked often. We've shared this slide I don't know how many times over the last couple of months. It was the first slide that led every budget presentation, and it's simply been me or someone else on staff talking about the significant shift that we've achieved over the past 3 years and with graduation rates, SAT scores, attendance, etc. What I put together an Excel document, I put it in the Board of Education Dropbox. We have access to a lot of data. Some of that is identifiable, so we haven't shared all of that data publicly yet for obvious reasons. But I thought I would share some highlights from some of our data. When we said these things are happening, they really are happening. I thought I would just take some time to share a couple of slides. For example, we talked about graduation rates. There's been much conversation over the past couple of days about graduation rates in our state. And some folks have asked me often, have we been eliminating, not only are we achieving high graduation rates, are we eliminating achievement gaps or closing achievement gaps when it comes to graduation rates? And my initial response is, well, it's hard to get to a 90% graduation rate without closing some gaps. But here are some real numbers, and you'll see some gaps have been eliminated. We said 3.5 years ago we came together when we dreamed big and we go out to a vision statement of 6,000 plus thinkers. We can do what some folks thought was impossible, eliminate achievement gaps. To sit here today at Ithaca High School, for example, and this data is similar at our other schools and district-wide, we're looking at it across the district, there have been gaps that have been eliminated and significantly closed. We include our IEP diplomas in our overall calculations. I put that caveat there, but the state doesn't at times, so you see a number that's a bit lower.
I was going to ask how many of those 13 children actually got an IEP diploma. I mean, an estimate.
The vast majority.
The vast majority.
of special ed students,
Yeah.
right? So
Of the 13 listed there as not having
I believe
graduated.
last year was 9.
9 of
9 of the
13.
13.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
So when we've been saying we've closed and eliminated achievement gaps in graduation rate, this is what it looks like. We have a lot more work to do because today I received an email from one of our board members who was upset we didn't have 95%. I'm not going to name a name, but we have more work to do.
I didn't say I was upset. I just said, how are you going to get there?
We want 100% graduation, and we're going to keep working on it. But I think we need to sometime recognize the outstanding work. And when you hear folks come and talk about the work that they're doing as far as relationship building and engaging young people, it looks like this ultimately. And again, I'm not going to show every school and district-wide for everything, but just give me a sense. Discipline. That was something that our community asked me to take a look at when I did my listening and learning tours that first month on the job. And they asked me to reduce discipline across the district. And the way we track discipline here, and that was an indicator we weren't tracking publicly like we are now in some ways in the bound scorecard. You'll see significant shifts. This is a lot of information here. That line at the bottom, that 58% reduction in all students, that's 58% reduction in discipline referrals across the district in 3 years. That's significant. You'll see the total number of referrals for 2010 and 11, and the total number in 2013 and 14. And then you'll see it across membership groups. Again, closing gaps, decreasing, and being better for all young people. And a lot of when you think about discipline and referral, particularly you think about secondary school, I thought I was doing another Ithaca high school chart up again. 73% reduction in discipline referrals over 3 years. And then you'll see what it looks like across our membership group. And we'll post this presentation online for folks to take a look at. Discipline, I was asked in a meeting a couple weeks ago, not only should we be looking at not only referral, but also in-school suspension and out-of-school suspension rates. So we're looking at that now as well. And you'll see what the reductions look like at Ithaca High School. And I can tell you, I've looked at it across the district and at individual schools. It's a similar trend. In ISS and IHS, it's down 75%. OSS is down 43%. And you'll see a spike in 1 year. That was Mr. Powers and I and the staff, we came together and we decided we were going to make some shifts. And so that did result in some higher suspension rates in 1 year. But I think from the data you see there, I don't want to say it sent a message, but it set a different level of expectation there that young people are now stepping up to. So those are our reductions in OSS and ISS at high school, and you'll see in your Dropbox similar trends across the organization at other schools at the secondary level and across the district. Attendance across the district, this number, that large number there, represents the whole day absences for us. It's something we're going to continue to work on. Yes, we have around a 96% average daily attendance, which is good. We want to continue to get better at that. We want to see that number get better each year. And what you'll see, we've seen a 6% reduction in whole day absences in over 3 years, which is very significant. And you see that at all of our schools. This is another indicator. We just last year we started tracking the percentage of young people, the number of young people reading on grade level. And we talked at times about what would it look like to have every young person reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade as an indicator. And that's something that's being debated all over the country right now. For us, we're now tracking this information. We track on grade level reading using the Fontes and Purnell assessment. And again, something we want to get better at each year, but in 2 years we've seen a 4% increase in the number of young people reading on grade level in K-5. And then looking at the membership groups, and you have that data, which is somewhat identifiable for some groups, you'll see increases across the board as well. I know I only have about 10 minutes. I want to throw this extra piece in there, but I just wanted to give you a sense. When we shared that first slide, we've shared with our community over and over for the last few months about significant achievement gains in our organization over the past few years because of our continuous improvement efforts. We mean it. We've seen some pretty significant achievement gains. In some cases, we've eliminated achievement gaps. In places that we've seen long-standing achievement gaps, some places we've outperformed national, state trends by far. And it's something I think we need to recognize, but gear up for the work that's ahead of us, because we have much, much more work to do. Yes, ma'am.
Our special ed kids in the 68%?
Yeah, I want to say that's everyone.
Those students.
And you'll see that breakdown in your Dropbox. And I've been looking at elementary reading data a long time. To see the shifts that we've seen are impressive, but to see the number of young people, and you look at the particular grade level, the number of young people reading on grade level in kindergarten, first grade, and see where we are. There's some pretty powerful work that's happening in our elementary classrooms, and that's a testament to our staff and the leadership that's there, because it's been rather remarkable. I did it all in 15 minutes.
Wanted to make another positive comment on these numbers. The achievement improvements and the attendance improvements are wonderful. As the discipline referrals and the suspension numbers dropping like that, I think when we're looking at, articles on school districts in other parts of the state, when their numbers drop, there's a lot of community feedback saying you're ignoring problems, you're just not referring kids, they're out of control. That's not what this is. This is high expectations, a better school culture. This is students being responsible and acting better and not needing the discipline, and that is really a credit to our leadership in every one of those schools.
I would agree. Thank you for that. And you mentioned our young people. Our young people are earning the highlights that our district's now achieving. Yes, folks are coming to visit. They're writing articles. It's not the superintendent and principals and administrators doing that. That's our young people and our teachers who are earning it. And I'm happy that it's happening.
Anything else? It's great news.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful. Good end of year meeting.
I hope you'll have some press release on some of this. You should.
We're working on it now.
So very good. And we'll ditto that. And anything else on numbers, Dr. Brown? I mean, the graduation numbers are available, through the state website. It's pretty hard to wade through, actually. So if you do go there, it is a bit hard to decipher which cohort, which year, and it is but certainly those numbers reflect what I saw, I believe.
Yeah,
so,
we will try to synthesize it even more.
No, I appreciate that.
Stop for a second.
Judy Max, what do you need?
You can have Pat sign. Pat can sign it now.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. A little housekeeping to do. We appreciate that. We appreciate our students getting their government requirement in. I believe that's what that is. So
Good.
Part of that, you gotta do it so you can graduate.
I think that's true.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Econ government thing, right?
Yes.
So, we didn't have that when I was. Of course, as Judy Max will remind us, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And speaking of a long time ago, it's been a while since we've had a policy. And Sean, I think we're going to have a few policies to deal with.
Sure. I move policy 5150.1 pre-K enrollment for a second reading and adoption this evening.
Second.
I was waiting.
This is a policy that came before us a couple months ago, or a couple weeks ago, excuse me. This is a policy that's preparing our faculty and staff to be able to engage in conversations, particularly around pre-K enrollment for next year. And it's something that will be happening once, probably, if we approve it tonight, they'll be working on it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I assume will take place.
Okay.
All right.
And I think we have Lily here to answer any questions. I can probably answer any questions as well. Folks have them. Please let me know.
Any changes from the, are we good? I mean, it's language that it should be. Policy committee is all over it.
The one debate we had at policy committee is I am not in favor of having people have to submit income verification documentation. I think it's an undue burden, and I thought what we should add language that said the district reserves the right to have income documentation verification. I was outvoted at committee, and the committee likes to keep the language as is, but that was the extent of our dialogue, that the language is that the district will require income verification forms for people to participate, and with a caveat that they're willing to work with folks should they have difficulty providing those documentation.
So Judy Max doing the hard case. All right.
Yeah.
Well, being tough.
Well, since we can only have so many,
Okay. If Lily's all right with it, can we vote on it?
and that's okay with them.
Okay, so everybody's good. So any other questions? All in favor? That's all of us.
Great. I move policy 0115 and 0115R, the regulation, for a first reading. Would someone be kind enough to
Second.
back me? So a quick word about these policies. These are two, they're not lengthy policies. I think one is 4 pages and then there's a regulation attached to it. The reality is we've already adopted these policies. We adopted these policies as policy 1115, and we did not adopt the regulation for it. But the actual policy has been adopted in 2012, or 2000, I should know this, right? I have 2012. But it was mislabeled and misidentified, but here's the policy again to give us the correct number, and we're also coming back to it because as a part of the Student Code of Conduct annual review, we finally recognized that these policies were mislabeled, and so here they are back on our agenda again in the 100 series.
But we were wondering if, where it says first reading, if you agreed that it could be the second reading since it's already adopted.
Going to be the last reading.
There, second reading.
My understanding, according to the way in which our policy is written, that we'd have to make a motion saying that we are going to skip a second reading and would take a majority, a supermajority vote of the board to.
We don't have a supermajority here.
We do. Well, but I thought, oh, you do.
Yeah.
If those
Right
were
now, we
present,
could-
we couldn't. You're right.
No, it's of the
Of
board.
the board, we need 6
Yeah, we
votes.
We need 6 votes, so we got 5 present.
We are 9 minutes.
But we could put it back on the agenda for
July 1st.
to get it to be done with it to be in the code of
Okay.
conduct. It'd still give you time to get it off the printers, I think.
Yeah.
And if it was mislabeled, I think it was probably before Daniel's.
It was most definitely before Daniel.
I just want to point that out for the record.
So are we doing the first reading or waiting?
Yeah, first reading.
First reading.
Excellent.
All right.
So,
I'm good. And are we voting on it? Did we waive it? Did we?
We have to vote on it.
All in favor? That's everyone.
So you'll see it for a second reading. We have pulled the next 2 policies just to give you some information.
Okay.
Policy 4315.1 is about HIV/AIDS instruction. Policy 0150 is about HIV and AIDS for employees, staff, and students, those who may be infected or carrying. And so what we did realize is that in 2010, we passed a revised policy 4315.1, and we have not had a time to cross-reference those 2 policies, so we'll pull them off. We've been in contact with Judy Hoffman and other folks, so we'll bring that back to you as soon as we get it figured out. We've had to ask our lawyers a couple questions. For example, New York State regulations mandates an AIDS advisory council, though most districts across the state do not adhere to that. It was a regulation that was implemented in the 1980s.
Complied with only in the breach?
Yep, I'm sure. And so, but we'll get all that worked out and all the language and bring it back sometime soon. Next on for the policy committee was we were asked to take a look at a possibility of a sponsorship policy. In other words, if corporations, individuals, organizations provide large or any contribution, would the district be considering a plaque or some sort of acknowledgement area? At the policy committee, we decided that we didn't think it was a decision that I don't know how to best explain it. We thought it was a whole board conversation. We were not in support of having a policy, but rather thinking about things on a case-by-case basis, if I'm not mistaken, is how we were thinking about it.
Yeah, I would think.
Do we need a policy on this or not?
that was on.
That was a question to the board, and just to get some direction from the board of what we thought. Did it mandate a policy? Can we take it as an individual basis? By individual basis, we meant by individual resolution. If we thought it was necessary, we put a resolution on the agenda and we make it happen. And that seems, according to our legal team, to be one of their recommendations.
Do we have a policy on how we treat policies like that?
Which sometimes we're thinking about policy to regulate policy that happens about policy, but we haven't got there yet.
No, that's the next step, Sean. Don't get ahead of us. For me, certainly a case-by-case basis is.
Are we faced with any?
Yeah.
We've been asked in particular, there's a particular case that we've been asked to think about that's a program that's affiliated with the district was received the sponsorship, and would the district consider a plaque in honor of that contribution?
They're hoping for Brad to step up. Yeah, go ahead.
I I think, Sean, didn't we feel that even under this policy, we would be voting on each individual sponsorship anyway, so why not just dispense with the policy and go straight to a resolution? Simplifying procedure.
That was the idea. And another thing that came up was thinking about if we should have some sort of designated area, and what we're talking about for recognition, not just of contributions but of community partners, et cetera, right? Should we think about a wall of fame or a wall of, I don't know, whatever it may be, right? And the idea obviously was outside of the Performing Arts Center, but something that acknowledges folks who participate and contribute and partner with the district. Should we think about some sort of space that acknowledges our community partners? Sure. So that was independent of the idea about a resolution. And so if I'm hearing folks correctly, the 5 of us that are here, the 2 non-policy committee board members, seems like the resolution may be the way to go for the time being, and we'll talk to folks about the specific requests as the time comes, and then just to be thinking about a possibility of should we think about identifying a space at the district level, board building, high school, whatever it may be.
Public space.
Public space, absolutely.
So can we bring that July 1st so those people would know?
I think I want to hear about it. And you're speaking in code. You're not telling me who it is, what it is. No.
I would bring July 1st anyway.
Yeah, I want to hear it. I want to hear more.
And I'll share all the legal reasoning first with all the board members so they can understand the request and the legal conversation, and we can go from there.
Sounds good.
So are we voting not to have a policy? We don't
This
have
was
to
just
vote,
a
right?
discussion.
So just for the record, the policy committee does not believe there should be a policy on every blessed thing.
I was wondering how thick the book was.
Speak for yourself, Pat. No, I'm just
But we do appreciate the policy committee and all the work that they do to go through.
And Rob, I so love your sincerity when I hear that come out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
You notice he doesn't come.
I can't go to every
That is true.
but no, I appreciate Sean being able to pull policy numbers out of his brain and have the memory and knowledge about. And I am being sincere. The policy is frankly one of the most important things that we do as a board, and it is not to be made fun of all the time.
Just most of the time, that's good.
Just once in a while, and why not the last board meeting of an excellent school year, Dr. Brown. Really, all things considered, really a tremendous year for students, staff. We appreciate everyone's efforts. Not quite done yet. Sean, go ahead.
I know we're going to get to other business, but there's actually not a policy committee on June 26th, which would be the same day as Ithaca High School graduation. And rather, we're encouraging folks to go participate in that glorious event and the privilege, right? Yes. The honor of participating in it. But rather, the next policy committee will be at July 1st at 5 p.m. Or did we say 4:30? 4:30, just prior to our reorg meeting. So the next policy meeting will be July 1st at 4:30 p.m.
Any other business by the board members that count that are here? Brad?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Without objection, thanks everyone. Thanks for a great year.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll see you all graduation. I'll see you tomorrow at 8.
Yes.
No, graduation. No, it's
Connor, what time is graduation? Thursday night. 7.
yeah.
Thanks, Connor.